Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bedomy and this is Dawn of War 2, the sequel to Dawn of War 1 and its subsequent expansions that was developed by Relic Entertainment and published by THQ, which went bankrupt and then its assets got acquired by Sega, so it's now a Sega game. But to be honest, it really doesn't matter who published the game. What matters is the question: is this game good, and should I purchase it? The answer to those questions are a very positive yes. But there are some problems that I really think you should know about before you purchase the game or even try it. We'll start off with the options menu and its lack of features at the moment, or its lack of features since launch. This game came out in well, it's been a while. Sorry, I can't remember at the moment. So let's just take a look at the options and notice that there is no option for changing the shortcuts or rebinding the control keys. This is a major problem I have with PC games. I understand that RTS games are supposed to be, they do have some universal rules when it comes to the control schemes, but still, I want the ability to change the shortcuts when I'm choosing my units or issuing commands. Just letting me disable or enable the ability, giving me the ability to disable or enable the ability to choose to deselect the squad by not pressing on them or just pressing somewhere else on the map where they're not, is not a good gameplay option. And mouse control speed, that's the only thing I can adjust. Seriously, this is bad. This is, I'm not gonna say it's anti-consumer, but it's anti-player. For the love of, I mean, seriously, if, for example, if my mouse is broken and, well, not completely broken, I can still move the cursor, but the left key is broken, I should be, or okay, maybe not the left key, but the right key is broken, I should be allowed to just change the right key commands for a different input button. At least, well, until I'm able to get a different mouse. With this is, well, basically you're giving excrement a slap by just, okay, you're not giving excrement nothing, you're not slapping anything, it's just you're not achieving much with this laughable gameplay options menu. That's what I'm trying to say. The graphic options are better off. I'm gonna admit, I can adjust the quality of the models, the shader, the terrain. I can adjust the brightness and the resolution of on the screen, but there's another complaint I have with this. As you can see, there is no full screen support. There is just widescreen, which is a borderless window. What's wrong with just using full screen? Is it did someone get killed because their PC they were playing the game in full screen? Why am I stuck with the borderless window? I mean, it's not. I admit it's not going to affect my gameplay much, or at the very least, it's not affecting it in a major way. But still, if I accidentally press home and it's just minimizes the window while I'm playing, I'll lose and I'll be in trouble, or I'll be in trouble because of that. Or what's wrong with just allowing me to play in full screen? That's what I want to know. But otherwise, the level of customization I am presented with here is rather lovely. I do like to tweak the amount of details I can see on the map and the level of polish on my character models. So it's a nice touch, I have to admit. The audio options are kind of a mixed bag, honestly. I am appreciative of the idea of the fact that I can adjust my volume separately, but why am I not allowed to, I don't know, turn to just turn on or turn the subtitles on or off. I can only choose how many voices do I get to hear while characters are talking amongst themselves, or the frequency at which the voices are spoken at. It's rather baffling why did Relic go with such a minimalistic approach when it comes to options. But for what they did with the game itself, I had to give compliments and credit where credit's due. The amount of detail and polish in the character models themselves and the sound design really sell this game to me. They really look and feel like they belong in a 40k universe. Granted, I wish I could change the character model on the menu screen when I log in, because the Black Templar in me really wants to rip this chaos worshipping, excited something heretic into the ground and then stab him into his rotten. Okay, I am not going to go there, but I'm really not a chaos worshipper. Thankfully, I am allowed to play as I am playing as Space Marines in the story mode, so I can get rid of them once we start Chaos Rising. And the Dawn of War story, we're just dealing with the Orcs, Tyranids, and the Eldar. So for now, we'll just look at the story mode of Dawn of War 2 and talk about Chaos Rising at a later date. Okay, let's see. Did I miss anything important? Oh yes, this game can be played solo or cooperatively, but there are some limitations when you're playing on co-op. For once, the story will not change, but the amount of squads you can take on the mission is limited to 2 squads per commander, and if you're playing solo, it's 4 squads. But it's honestly not a bad deal. This is a very interesting tactics game with elements of RPG. It's not a typical base building RTS. It's a squad-based tactical game. And I will show you what I mean by that in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the map in front of us. As you can see, we're on a planet infested by the Tyranids, and also orcs because they're everywhere. But still, we have to cleanse the planet of the Tyranid infestation and then deal with the orcs, because this is a story mission, but I want to avoid it because spoilers. So we'll be taking a look at the optional mission, which will expire in 3 in-game days. And if we fail it, we might lose the game asset. Well, the planetary asset. Every map has 2 assets we can capture, but only one asset per mission. So the more assets we have in our pocket, the greater the number of usages for some abilities is. So, for example, if I have enough communications arrays, I can use the artillery barrage on the planet. And after I use them up during a mission, I have to wait for the mission to end, and then I can reuse them on the next mission. So, the greater number of assets, the greater number of deployable, the greater number of attacks, special attacks you can use, or defensive barriers in case of the Rosarius. And while we're here, let's take a look at the RPG element of the game. As you can see, I am currently looking at my player character, which is not customizable when it comes to facial features, but he is very customizable when it comes to armor. Since the game has an RPG mechanic, we can equip different weapons and armors on our characters, and that will affect their appearance in the game. So, for example, if I switch one armor for a different one, not only will I get some statistical bonuses, I will also get a better looking armor. But since this armor offers more works better for my build. For my current build, I will equip the cyborg ion, the armor, the Steel of Dawn. And every squad can actually be, well, not customized like this, but they can be equipped with different armors and weapon sets. They also have some usable accessories, such as grenades, medkits, and special summoning abilities, such as tarantula turrets. Or, well, actually, let's not use Avitus here. Let's use Cyrus for an example. We can also use different explosives depending on the squad. I do recommend that you focus your you focus more on planting explosives with the scouts, because they can turn invisible, so you can clean up the enemy's fortifications rather easily once you plant the explosive charges. So once we choose our equipment and choose our squads, we can embark on a mission. But if we have anything we don't want in our inventory, we can just sell it for additional experience. And once we level up the character, we get to skill points that can be spent on the skill tree to make our characters even more powerful. So that's about the gist of it when it comes to the RPG elements. And if you think this is everything there is to Dawn of War 2, don't fret. You have 3 planets to choose from, and every one of them has a Xenos problem. This planet is infected by the orcs and the Tyranids, and this is the planet we're currently invading or protecting in this case, considering the fact that Subsector Aurelia is the homeworld of the Blood Ravens chapter, so we're protecting them. Technically, the orcs and Tyranids are invading. But as the missions come in, we can actually hop from planet to planet and partake in the said missions to quell the Tyranid infestations, as well as level up our characters. So for now, let's take...
The Tyranid swarm continues to ravage the sector, Commander. An entire horde is closing in on one of our automated foundries. These foundries allow us to resupply quickly and launch multiple strikes against our enemies. That advantage could be lost to us if this foundry falls to the Tyranids.
So yeah, let's enjoy a bit of the wonderful voice acting the game has, and take a look at the mission briefing. Once we capture enough communications arrays, we'll get some intel on our opponents, and as well as which weapons might be useful against the said enemies. So once we set up our squads, we will deploy on a mission and take a look at the gameplay itself. Since this is an optional mission, we are allowed to fail or succeed. And if we manage to succeed, we'll be awarded with better equipment and additional experience, depending on how well we perform. If we fail, we lose the...
Weather an attack, but the generators powering it are much more fragile. If the swarm destroys those, we will no longer have access to the foundry, regardless of its state.
Then they will not fall.
So yes, as you already heard, if we fail this mission, we will lose the foundry, and our ability to actually utilize more powerful weapons will be lost. So this is Dawn of War 2's main gameplay gimmick. It is a rather... I'm not gonna say it's polarizing for most players who played Dawn of War 1, since this is a squad-based tactics game more than anything else. You can be under-leveled with your characters, but if you utilize your positioning correctly and actually use proper tactics, you will be able to survive the enemy's oncoming onslaught of enemies. And oh god, we lost on the spot. Okay, that's not it's not easy to play and comment and explain what the game is about while defending an asset. So this happened. Anyway, as you can see, once the mission is over, we either get a victory or a defeat screen, and we see how leveled up our characters are, and how much gear we managed to acquire.
Commander, the enemy has taken one of the automated foundries we had secured. This makes it harder for us to deploy in response to distress signals.
Yes. So once the mission is failed, you lose the asset and you have to recapture it again once you have a different mission. So it's not a complete loss if you fail, but it makes the game harder on you. And you cannot just reload the mission because the game autosaves without. The game only has an autosave feature, so once you start playing a mission, you either have to finish it or forfeit and lose the mission. Anyway, as I was saying, this game really requires you to consider and be tactful about your choices when it comes to the squads and their weapons. If we're using for a defense mission, you would probably use a more tankier squad that can dish out. They can attack the enemies from a distance and summon turrets to protect them, and maybe take a couple of melee units just to protect the long-range fighters, as you already saw. And also, you have to consider when and how you position them before you actually start fighting, because a bad positioned squad will get obliterated immediately. Luckily, the squad will not be lost entirely. After the commander is killed, the commander can be revived and then reinforced with new soldiers at the listening post or a foundry, as you probably saw. So yes, as I said, you have to deal with.
We have located one of Ripper Splitter's lieutenants. This lieutenant is an orc mech that has been supplying Ripper Splitter's horde with heavy weapons. This mech has made a fatal mistake, however, and has revealed his position. Find him and extract Ripper Splitter's location from him. This is our only hope of finding the astronomic array.
Yes, as I was saying, you can retry the story-based missions, but the timed missions will be failed if you abandon them. So I recommend that you play a couple of story missions and fail them and forfeit them on purpose. The experience will stay with you, and the equipment you gather in the field will also come with you. But the mission will be considered a failure. You can retry it as many times as you want, so you can use it to actually grind your levels and level up your characters to make things easier on you. So I know we failed one mission, but just for entertainment purposes, let's do another one and then end the video there. I don't want to just bore you with the user interface.
The orc has laid several deadly traps near his location. Be on guard.
He should be worried.
So when we...
Do not underestimate your opponent, Abatus. That path leads to an early grave.
So now then, since we have to get rid of the orcs in this sector, we'll have to carefully move closer to... Well, not move closer, but go through different areas and obliterate the orcs as we move along. The game will rank you depending on how well you perform. It will calculate how fast you actually took care of your enemies, how many of your enemies did you take out, and how many squads stayed alive during the mission. You can revive the commanders and simply resupply them with soldiers at the drop pods or listening posts. But if you're not careful, you might lose all of your squads and the mission will be over in seconds. So, as you can see, I am pushing the orcs in front of the knobs. I'm pushing the orc knobs, which are long-range fighters, into a melee confrontation where we are more dominant as the assault marines and the force commander. But if more anti-melee oriented soldiers come in, we're screwed. But don't think that just because we don't have as much in terms of we have more melee units that we're dominant ones in this game. We're not a dominant species in the game. The Space Marines every army has a unique playstyle. The Space Marines are a good mixture of both melee and ranged weapons, but they're pretty squishy if they're fighting someone who. But every Space Marine is squishy to their opposite army military style. For example, Devastator is great at range but terrible at melee, and will be killed by the Tyranid hunters and warriors if they manage to close the distance. The Assault Marines are very great in close quarters, but if you find them, but if they're caught up in the open with a bunch of gunners, or the flamethrowers, they'll get killed instantly. So staying maneuverable is a good idea. We can just kite the anti-infantry orcs into our firing range and get rid of them, and then move along. And as we move along, more enemies will come in, and we'll have to deal with them as they come. And luckily, we just picked up a supply depot, a supply crate, and we can once we destroy it, and we can resupply our grenades or usable items. So, for example, our tactical squad can reinforce itself, can heal up the other squads with a med kit, and once we destroy the supply crate will resupply the med kit. So one supply pack equals +1 to every consumable accessory you used, and I think that's about it. Oh god, no, run. Run away. Yes, so you cannot stand idly by in this game. You really have to be aggressive and push into your opponents, not to mention consider your positioning before you push into the area. So as you can see, if I'm not careful here, I might get overrun by orcs and lose all of my squads. But if I'm careful and consider my options and consider my positions carefully, I can ambush the orcs' shooters and knock them out with a well-timed jump, with a well-timed jet jump, and get rid of them in close quarters. So it's a very nice, it's a very well balanced game. I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say is that it's a very well balanced when it comes to gameplay. Every race has its own strengths and weaknesses. The orcs are durable and better equipped for melee attacks, while the Eldar are more focused on long range. The Space Marines are more a mixture of melee and ranged, while the Tyranids are more melee focused. And every mission I partake in has an interesting concept behind it. So it's either defend the position or assaults and search and destroy the area and get rid of the enemies and destroy the enemies in the area, or just destroy the set amount of generators or units, as you can probably see. So for now we'll just end this, position our Marines into an ambush somewhere where we can ambush our enemies. We'll pull back our melee fighters, let the Orc sluggers enter the firing range, and attack them with another jump assault. We'll exit the building, leave the protection of the area, and reinforce our tactical squad, which lost men. So yeah, careful unit composition and weapon usage is really important in this game, as well as using your, and as well as the know-how as to when and how to use which squad. So once we lose squad mates, we reinforce them and move on with the mission. That's about it when it comes to the game. We can excuse me, it's not easy to commentate and play it simultaneously sometimes, especially in RTS-based games. So as I was saying, knowing when to position yourself and how to position and which units to use in the set position is really important in this game. It does force you to be aggressive because the enemies will continuously attack you and push you away from, I'm not going to say a safe zone, but if you spend too much time in a building, they will send someone with explosives to destroy the building. And second of all, consider kiting as a valid option for this game, especially on harder difficulties. A strong big massive enemy. You usually don't have the numbers to deal with massive armies of orcs and Tyranids, so it's probably better to just annoy a couple of squads of Tyranids or orcs to come towards you and then destroy them in a crossfire. And I think that's about it when it comes to the Dawn of War 2. I did forfeit the mission, but I did get some useful items I can sell or get for extra experience. And I can also change the weapons for my squads. So, as you can see, I just got a better plasma gun, and I'll get rid of the old one in order to actually upgrade my squad's levels. I wish there was a better... Actually, I think this is a better armor to use, so I'll get rid of this one and level up the assault squad. Finally, we can max out the health tree and have a fairly powerful assault squad that can withstand longer fights. Anyway, this is Dawn of War 2. If you're planning on purchasing it, I recommend that you buy it in a bundle, because well, let me show you. Because when you purchase Dawn of War 2 and download it, you actually download both the story campaign, the story missions, the story for Dawn of War 2 and the Chaos Rising story. So once you purchase the Chaos Rising, you're actually just purchasing the unlock key for it. You will just have the game unlocked. So if you can, purchase the Dawn of War trilogy, Dawn of War 2's trilogy in a bundle, and wait for the sale. That's what I want to recommend. They're not often, but when the sales do come, the games are sold at a very reasonable price, and they're a hell of a lot of fun. Yes, they're not the typical RTS you would expect, but that's a good thing, honestly. I like it. I like to micromanage more often than macromanage. I really don't like building buildings and taking a and paying. I really don't like paying attention to my resources. I just want to take an army and maneuver them through the battlefield. That's something I usually look forward to when I'm playing an RTS. And this is honestly one of the better RTSs I have played in recent years. StarCraft 2 especially, StarCraft 1 and 2 are great RTS games, and I will play them whenever I can. But this one really is a gem on its own as well. So with that, my name has been Bedomy. Thank you very much for watching, and good night.